In this week's episode of Flea Market Rescue, we're going to take this oriental-looking birdcage and turn it into a beautiful piece of home decor. Next, we'll take this paper mache dress form along with its flowers and turn it into a gorgeous dress form display. And lastly, I'm going to teach you how to make these super easy spheres that look like they came from Restoration Hardware. So if you're ready for this week's episode, then come on, let's go ahead and do this. One quick note though, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope that you'll consider doing that. I post new videos every week, and if you ring the bell, you'll get notified every time I post a new video. I found this at the thrift store. I love the bird cage, but it looks a little too like oriental, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's not my kind of decor, so I want to change it into something more like farmhouse and just something more my style. This was $4.99, and if you saw just a second ago, it has these tassels. Like, I'm so not into them. I don't like them at all. So we're going to get rid of those too. So the first thing we need to do is we need to turn this over, and we need to lift up the little tabs on the back so we can get the backing off. So I'm just going through, and I'm just lifting all those up so we can get that out of there. All right, so I'm just lifting this up. And we need to paint both of these pieces, the cage and the other piece. So I took this outside and I sprayed it with flat white protective enamel. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to see what kind of paint that is. I also sprayed the backing as well, just to get the birds off of there. So we are going to use this bird IOD mold. I love using this one. This is so pretty. We're gonna make like a bird for that cage, and then we need something decorative around them, so I'm gonna use this one here. I think this one is gonna be just perfect. So let's make those right now. We're gonna use our Magic Sculpt to do so. This is a 2-part epoxy resin. You use a little of the hardener and you use a little of the resin. You mix 2 parts together, and then you have your clay. And we're gonna use it in this bird IOD mold. Like I said, this is a 2-part epoxy resin. We're gonna take a little of the resin and a little of the hardener. I wear gloves because this resin is really sticky before it's mixed, and I don't like all that on my hands. So anyway, we're gonna just take equal parts. We'll take equal parts of this. I probably need just a little more because these are pretty large pieces we're going to be making. We'll start off with this, and if we need more, we can go back in and mix a little more. So I have a ball about this big, so now we're going to need some of this white resin. Same amount. So I go by feel. Like, that's pretty close. If anything, you want a little more hardener than the resin, because the hardener is what really, makes this dry. It makes it durable. Okay, so that feels really like 2 parts. We're just gonna mix them. You just kind of take them, twist it, fold it. Just keep doing that. And then when you don't see any more of this gray and the whole thing is white, then you know it's mixed properly. So I'm just gonna keep doing that, and then we'll make our pieces. All right, so I have this mixed. As you can see, there's no more gray in it. So let's start making our pieces. What we want to do though is we want to cornstarch this up, because this is very sticky, and if you don't have it cornstarched up, it's going to stick. Okay, so we're just going to take a little of this cornstarch. You know what, let's start with the bird first. I think this will be a pretty bird. We're just going to do this one here. All right, and all you do is just kind of press a little of your clay in your mold. I love IOD molds. They have the best molds and they make your stuff look so cool. So once I have all the clay in there, I just kind of, with my hand, I smooth all this out. What's nice is they have a little lip on this, so when you rub your hand over it, it gets rid of all the excess clay. Now, one of the viewers had mentioned, actually a couple people mentioned, that if you take these IOD molds and you put them in the freezer for like 15 minutes, they're frozen and they just pop right out. You don't have to try to struggle to pull it back and hope that it doesn't get all distorted in shape. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put this right in the freezer. We'll put that in for about 15 minutes and we'll come back and get this out. Okay, so as you can see, that looks really cool. Let's take this to the freezer. We're just gonna pop this mold in here in the freezer. Sorry, the light's out. But we're gonna let that sit for about 15 minutes and then we'll come back. Now we're gonna take the rest of our clay here and we're gonna make this. We might have to mix some more because I don't know if it's gonna be enough for 2 of them for each side. I'm gonna just cornstarch that up and then we're just gonna start putting this all in here. So I mixed up a little bit more of this magic sculpt so that we could finish the other side and then add a little to this here. Okay, so this is done. We're gonna pop this into the freezer as well and we'll go from there. Okay, so we still have our bird in there and then now we'll just go ahead and put this in there as well. I think our bird might be done. See how it just pops out? Now, this would never happen if it wasn't frozen. Oh, that's so pretty. Look at that. Okay, let's just take a peek what it's gonna look like in our cage. Because that's where we're gonna let it dry too. There. Oh, I think that's gonna be really pretty. Since we have a little more clay, let's just make another bird because we can see how that looks too. We might as well. I mean, we have extra. If it looks good, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, then we'll use it on another project at another time. So I'm just gonna put all that in here. And I'd like to say, when you're freezing the clay, it really maintains all the details so good. Like nothing gets distorted at all. I really think this is the way to go, is put it in the freezer. I wish I had known that when I was doing the letters, because here's me doing the letters in a previous project with this IOD mold, and I can tell you that as you're bending it back and you're trying to pull the letter out, it gets so distorted. Because the letters are so hard to get out, but being frozen, they just pop right out. So I probably could have left that bird in just a few more minutes and it probably would have just fell out of the mold. Anyway, I think freezing these pieces are the way to go. All right, so that looks good. We're just gonna pop this one into the freezer. Like I said, if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, that's okay. All right, so I just took these out of the freezer, and they've been in there a while because I was doing other things, so let's just check this out. They are like frozen. Look at that, perfect. I mean, like absolutely perfect. Another perfect. These are really nice, I love them. Let's go ahead and get our bird out of there. See, that just pops out and has great detail too. All right, so let's see how this is gonna look. While this is frozen, let's pick it up and I think it goes like this. No, I think it goes like this. There we go. Now, do we want the other bird? That looks really pretty, doesn't it? Let's see with the cage on there. Yeah, that is really pretty. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue these pieces down with Titebond so that in the morning we can just go and do what we need to do with this cage and it'll be all ready. These will be completely hardened because remember they just came out of the freezer, and they'll be all dry and we can assemble everything. Well, I mean, I'm gonna glue these down right now, but we'll assemble this. Okay. All right, so we're gonna glue these pieces down so that in the morning they'll be dry. I always use Titebond with all my applique pieces. Titebond is the best to use for that. So I'm gonna start by, see, now it's not frozen anymore, but that's okay. I'm gonna just put some of this Titebond on there. You don't need a whole lot because you don't want it seeping on the sides. Just enough that it's gonna hold down. So I'm gonna flip that over and you're gonna position it where you want it to be. And this really like dries pretty quick, so okay. Take the other one. We're gonna do the same. We're gonna put some of our Titebond on this. Again, you don't need like a whole bunch. You don't want it like oozing out the sides. So I'm gonna flip that over. And we're going to position that. You kind of want both sides to look the same. So I think that looks pretty good. And you want to do it quickly because, like I said, this stuff sets pretty fast and then you're not able to really move your pieces. Like this is already kind of stuck down. I can somewhat move it, but it's really tacky. All right, let's all right, so let's go ahead and do our bird. Carefully turn our bird over. You know what, I need this bird to be over a little more. There we go. It just wasn't centered enough, and I knew in like 2 minutes we're not gonna be able to lift it up, so that looks nice. And then we'll just glue this bird up on top with a tight bond. These birds are so pretty. Okay, so I think that looks really nice. We're just gonna let that dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll do a little more to this, okay? While our birds are drying, we're gonna get this off of here. I don't like those tassels. I'm just gonna cut them with my wire snips. Okay, that's one off of there. Yeah, I don't want that on there. All right, and now we got the other one off of there. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to use a little of this Bear paint and primer in one. It's color matched to a Sherwin-Williams color called Pure White. So we're just going to paint our applique pieces because we're going to put a wax over these, and I just don't want to leave them all natural. We're going to use some of this Wise Owl black wax. You're just going to go over the entire piece with that black wax. Make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies with that. Now we're going to take a cloth and wipe some of that wax away. Do you see, by applying that black wax and then wiping some away, it got into all the nooks and crannies and it really made the detail pop. All right, so now that that looks good, we're gonna take some of this greenery. I got this at the thrift store. Whenever you find good greenery, buy it because you can use it all year long and you never know when you're gonna find it again. So I always pick it up whenever I see it. So we're gonna use some of this. I think it's just gonna give it a nice earthy kind of spring type vibe to this this project here. So I'm going to take my hot glue gun and we're just going to start gluing some of this at the bottom here. I think I'm going to probably add a little moss too. I think that's going to look really good. I have some of this moss left over from, do you remember that project with the snowman? We bought that huge wreath. And this was all in there. I still have a little of that left. I like to keep things because you never know when you're gonna use them. And today I think this would be really good to add a little of this. Again, it looks like nature. Just a little bit. To give it, you know, like some earthy kind of tones. You have the brown, the green. It almost looks like a bird's nest, which is really cool. Yeah, just a teeny bit more. So I'm loving that. Now we're going to take our cage part and we'll put it over it. I'm gonna turn it over, and then we're gonna add, you know what? Hold on, before we do that, I'm gonna add just a little more at the bottom. I don't want all this white showing. So I have some moss that I got from Joann's. I used that on the Valentine's Day project when we made those hearts, those moss hearts. See, when you buy this stuff, you can use it on so many other projects, so it's never a waste. So we're just going to add a little moss at the bottom here, because I don't want any white showing at the bottom. All right, I think that looks so much better. All right, now we're gonna put our cage part on top. I'm gonna flip this over, and then we're gonna do our little tabs here. We're gonna press them all down. Just make sure it's all lined up well, and just put your tabs down, back down. These are pretty easy to bend, so like I don't need to use a screwdriver or anything. All right, so that's back on. We'll flip it over. I think this looks so pretty. So you know what this needs now? This needs a hang tag. I'm going to use one of the French ones because I think that will work best on this. I just think it's going to look good. Adding these little touches really makes your project stand out. I had one viewer say, whenever I put the tags on, her stuff sells. It's like magic. It just gives it a nice finished look, and that's what you're looking for. People want things that are finished when they buy them. And those little accessory type things really help. All right, so let's take a full look at this. I bought this paper mache dress form at the thrift store, and I loved it when I seen it. However, I wasn't too crazy about the flowers, and I just thought it needed some kind of pedestal too. As you can see next to it, I found that candlestick for 99 cents, and we are going to add that as the pedestal. So let's go ahead and get started on this project. First, we're going to need to rip off these flowers. And then after that, then we're going to need to take this price tag off, and then we'll get started with everything else. So I bought this newspaper print here. It's a decoupage tissue paper. What's nice about the tissue paper is that you don't need to like put any clear coat. You can just use Mod Podge and it goes on so nice. So let's open this one up here, and we are gonna put this all over our dress form. This one here is of old newspaper prints. And we are just going to kind of put that all on our dress form till we have it covered. I think it's gonna look awesome. So let's go ahead and start cutting some pieces that we can Mod Podge on here. So I'm gonna start by cutting out some of these. I'm gonna actually just cut this sheet right in half. Now we just don't want advertisements going all the way down like this square, this square. We're gonna want some of this writing here to be on there. So I'm gonna kind of cut this one out here. And that might be pretty on the side to have the flowers come up the side here on her. That could be really pretty. So we're just going to cut out some random pieces and then we can put it on our dress form. We might want to just put that one like right here. That could look really good too. I'm going to be using Mod Podge to put this on. So I'm just going to apply a little Mod Podge. I'm going to put a little where we ripped off that flower so that stays down. There we go, that sealed it. Alright, and let's see. I think we were going to do something like this. Let's get this down to the end here. Now this is a curved surface, so it might be a little more difficult to get around. We might have to actually just cut a little bit of this. I'm Mod Podging on top and underneath. And again, we are working on a curved surface, so we may need to like cut these flowers over here on the side. I think that's actually what I'm going to do because I think we'll be able to wrap it a little easier if we do that.
You may need to make small little cuts on the side just so the paper will wrap around a little easier. That's what I had to do. Then you're just going to smooth it out the best you can around that curved surface. And don't be afraid to use a little more Mod Podge to make sure that everything is sticking down.
Looking pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our flowers on the side right over on top of the places where I cut. We'll lay that right on top over here.
I think these flowers look so cool, and just keep on smoothing it out the best you can. You're not going to get it perfect because this is a curved surface. If we were working on like a board, it would be totally different. Also, I'm working with some really big pieces. If you were to use smaller pieces, it would be a lot easier for you to manage. that one there. I think that's gonna be pretty. But I think we should finish the side first here. Put that. I'm gonna cut that. I cut this portion out just so that we can maneuver around this curve a little better, and then I'll place it right on top like it's an advertisement.
Sometimes you have to cut in certain areas and then piece it back together just so it'll fit around these curved surfaces.
You might need to cut in certain areas if you're going to do a large one like me. See, this is when you overlap this, you're not going to notice that we cut it, but we needed to cut it because it just is not going to go flat for us if we don't. So this is looking really good. And then now we can add in what we cut off. Like the bulbs can go over here now. We'll just lay it kind of in top. And then same with this one here, the Henderson. We can add this back on top and you won't notice that we really cut it. Around these curves you may need to cut, and that's okay, just so it'll fit. All right, so I thought I had the camera on when I was doing this piece here. I continued on the back, And with this piece here, what I did was I cut around the flowers here. That way I could easily fold the paper around and then glue it on and then fold the flowers over. And then that made it go down, because otherwise this was such a large piece that it just kept wrinkling. So the bigger pieces are hard to work with. You could use smaller pieces and that would work out really good, but again, I'm working with much bigger pieces, so if you can find an area where you can cut and then kind of tuck the other part that you cut off, you know, on the side here, tuck it underneath and then place that on top, I mean, you can't really even tell that I did it. So, and then we just have one more section here on the back, and we're just gonna glue that on there. All right, you guys, my camera keeps shutting off. I don't know why, but I was taping this side here. All right, just to show you, I was gonna put like maybe a flower here on the side. However, I didn't want a flower on her boobs, so I chose this instead. And then I made a couple slits right here because, as you can see, there's a curve in her body, and just to make it a little easier, I cut the paper. I also cut it here too because there's a little dip in her back, a little curve here. So anywhere there's a curve, you might want to make a little cut just to make it easier on you, because otherwise the paper wrinkles. Because you're not doing it on a flat surface. You're, you know, trying to contour her body here. I want to put this around her neck. I think that would be really cool. But first, I think that we need to add another piece in front here to kind of finish that off, and then we'll add our band around there. Then we'll add this around here. Okay. We might need to add a little right here. We're gonna do a little piece right here because we gotta have something down. Make a little cut right here so it'll lay flat, and I think that might be okay. No, maybe we'll do one right here too. There you go. That just makes it lay down a little better for us. I think that's gonna be good. All right, now we're gonna try to put this on. I hope that it's gonna lay down properly for us. Might be a little too big, actually, I don't know. I love this, but I'm not sure it's gonna work for us. I think that would look really cool. Let's try it. Let's just go for it. All right, so I got this glued down pretty good. There are a few wrinkles. I don't think I'm gonna get every single wrinkle out, but for the most part, looks pretty good. I just need to put a little more glue, maybe right there, and a little more right there. All right, so we still need to finish a little bit on the back here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just continue with the rose theme here. So it's getting there. We're almost done. Just a couple more spots. As you can see, when this dries, it dries like a really nice antique-y look. But when we're putting it on, it looks kind of white. But as you can see, as it dries, it gets darker. Sometimes it just makes sense to tuck something underneath. Like, since we want like this to show, I'm not going to put this on top. I'm going to actually try to put that behind it. I like it because it almost looks like an apron. It looks like straps here. I like that. I'm going to find another piece that we can put over here. We'll tuck that behind here before it dries. Actually, this one, it doesn't matter because it's the collar. Yeah, actually this one doesn't matter at all, whether it's front or back. Now, like for these little spots here and here, we can just cut a little piece and add it into this design. It's just you want to make sure that the front looks good, you know? You want to make sure that this all is like lined up and looks really good. It doesn't really matter so much like right here in the armpit. No one's really looking at that, or like right here. So we're just going to cut a little bit out from one of these, and we'll place it on there just to cover up whatever's missing. And our last part is going to be just this here. I'm going to need to cut this. because it's a little too much. All right, so I think that looks really cute. We're just gonna let that finish drying, and then we're gonna put it on our candlestick here that we got for 99 cents. Okay, so this dress form is completely dry. We got all our decoupage paper on there, rice paper, and now we're gonna add this onto the candlestick. In order to do that, we need to make a hole that's gonna be the size of this here. So I'm going to take some scissors, and right in the middle I'm going to make a hole. We're going to make it as big as that opening. I have these tin snips. This might make it a little easier because this paper mache is pretty hard. I don't want to ruin my scissors. There we go. Okay. Now we want to make sure that this is going to stand up correctly, so we have to have it positioned right. That's perfect. Okay, so that looks really good. What we're gonna do is take a little hot glue, and we're also gonna use some Gorilla Glue to hold that. This Gorilla Glue is a 2-part epoxy. We're just gonna squirt a little of each side out. And we're gonna mix it with a toothpick. Now I'm going to put this epoxy all around the candlestick. There's nothing like epoxy. It just really sticks well. Now, it does take a little while to dry, but once it dries, it is on there. All right. I'm also going to use a little hot glue to hold it in place until that dries. And then I'm just going to press that down onto our candlestick. It's going to have to dry overnight, but like I said, once it dries, it's going to be on there. All right, you guys, it is the next morning, and we're just going to take a little of this jute here, and we're going to wrap it around her waist a couple times. I'm going to cut this, and we're going to tie, I have a little piece of greenery, we're going to put a little greenery on the side of her and tie that in place. I think it's just going to be a nice added touch. Tie that nice and tight, and then we'll cut the ends off. Okay, and then we had a little excess paper here on the bottom. We're just going to cut that off. I don't know what it is about spheres, but I love them. I just think they make everything look so much better. I love displaying them outside. I like displaying them in the house. They're so awesome. And whenever I find them, I always pick them up. I never skip over them. Anyway, I'm going to show you a really inexpensive and, fast way to make one of these. When I was at the thrift store, I came across like this whole bundle. I've made other things, so there was more of them, and it was like $4.99, and there was a ton of them. Anyway, we're gonna take a few of these, and we are gonna make the sphere out of this. I'm gonna paint it first though, because it's just so much easier to paint it before it's assembled. We are gonna use some of this Annie Sloan Cocoa paint. We're only going to need just 3 of these. So I'm going to take 1, 2. You need 1 of this, 1 of this, and we'll do 1 more inner one. So we have 2 that are the inside, and there is just 1 that would be the outside. And we're going to paint these real quick. I'm going to open this can of paint. Alright. I love Annie Sloan's paint. It makes everything look so expensive. Anyway, we're just going to paint this really quick. We'll let that dry and then we'll assemble it. Like I said, it's just so much easier to paint it before it's assembled. Alright, so we're going to let that dry here. Alright, so our hoops are now done. They're completely dry. We painted them with that Annie Sloan Cocoa paint. And now we're going to use this Gorilla epoxy glue to glue our sphere together. I'm just using 2 parts here. Just take a little bit out. Now make sure you have 2 equal parts. And I just take a toothpick and I just kind of mix it like that. Alright, so first things first, we'll take the one that has the hardware on it. Now you're going to stick that in between, and if we miss some spots of paint, don't even worry, we're totally good. I'm going to put this one in like this. Now I'm going to put a little epoxy on each side, but I also am going to use a little hot glue to hold it in place. So I put a little epoxy there. We're going to join these 2 together. And then I'm going to make sure I am directly across. And I'm going to put a little on the opposite side too. Like so. This one here is going to go in between. You just want to smush it in there. And then you're going to want this to go like that. around these two. All right. I'm going to put a little glue on this one that we just added. And move that, put some right there. Then we'll move that, put some right here. And I have some already there. Now, let's just make sure. Yeah, it's on there. Okay. I don't even know if we really need any hot glue. I guess I could use just a little of it. Just to make sure. Just a little bead of that. That on top of there. I need to wipe some of this off. I got a little too much glue there. I'm gonna move this. I feel like this one's almost glued down. Slide that over. Move this back. All right, so this is all together. We're gonna let that dry overnight, and we're gonna put a little dark wax on it, probably. See how easy that is, though? Seriously. And it costs nothing if you get these hoops, like, you know, find them at the thrift store, a garage sale. Just getting any extra glue off. All right, so we'll let that dry and we'll display it. All right, so we have our sphere all painted and dried and glued. So what I'm gonna do is take a little of this Annie Sloan dark wax, and we're just gonna add it to our sphere, just to give it a little more kind of depth to it. It's gonna look more like a restoration hardware kind of look by using this. See how it's given it some nice kind of tones in there, rather than just a flat painted look. See, you want it like that. Now, you know, if you bought this at Restoration Hardware, it would be a lot of money. But we're able to make things pretty inexpensive and make it look just like it.
These are super easy, very inexpensive to make, and as you can see, they look great.
If you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, hop on over there. We'd love to have you. We have a lot of talented, inspiring people who post their projects, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of them. Our group has grown to over 1,700 people, so come on and join us. Just want to thank everyone who prayed for my mom. I was so nervous for her to get this surgery, but I want you to know that it went well and she's on the mend. So thank you so much for keeping her in your thoughts and prayers. My sister and I were there just on Monday. We made BLTs for her and we went through old pictures, and it was a really nice day, and I think she was glad we were there. And I just have to show you guys this. She hasn't taken this down because of course she had surgery and everything, but look at how sweet she decorated for Valentine's Day. I love this. Thank you again, YouTube family, for all the thoughts and prayers. It really meant a lot to us. Well, that's it for this episode of Flea Market Rescue. If you like this episode and you want to see more episodes like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell. I'm Kelly Sherry, and this has been Flea Market Rescue.